So you've heard me use the word experience in the video modules, and you'll have seen it mentioned in your manual. So what exactly is an experience? And so to begin with, an experience is what we're manifesting. We're manifesting an experience. So what is an experience? So in the page in your manual, we have something that we call an experience triangle. And as you can see, it's a triangle and it's got 5 layers. So in each present moment, and you can also think of this as sort of an extension of the physical, non-physical circle. So there'll be components of the physical, non-physical circle that actually are represented here. Okay, so it's really a different layer or a different perspective on the same map. And so here's what I mean by this. So you can look at a map of a city and you can see this map's got the streets on it. And then you can maybe look at another map of the city, and then maybe this map shows the bus lines. And then you can look at another map of the city, and maybe it shows the rapid transit lines, right? So they're different maps, but they're really just different, focusing on the same location or place, right? So our experience triangle is that. Okay, so what is an experience? Well, this present moment, as I said, is an experience. And in our experience triangle, there are 5 components in an experience. And it's important to remember this because when you're selecting what your desired experience is, it's going to have these components. Okay, so the first one, this one on the bottom, I want you to label it, or you can even write the word, P for physical, right? And we've talked about the physical when we talked about the physical, non-physical circle, right? You know, one other comment and a review possibly is in the physical, there's only one, right? There's only one physical. And it's kind of an interesting thing to think about because what did we say before? Our physical world is a world that fits inside our 5 senses. It actually talks about this in the manual, but you know, when you think about it, and so for instance, me here, I'm taping this in my condo in Orlando, Kissimmee to be exact, where I just finished teaching a workshop. So if I use just the information that my 5 senses are giving me, my entire world at a physical level, right, is, you know, the room that I'm sitting in, the couch that I see, the temperature, any aromas I may smell, the sounds I may hear, and that's it, right? You know, if I use just the information that my 5 senses are giving me, I have no way of knowing, if you will, that, you know, the pool that is just kind of, you know, 100 feet over there exists. If you think about it, right? Just the information my 5 senses are giving me, right? And so, you know, if I got up and I walked over to the pool, well, now what's the information my 5 senses are giving me? Well, I'd look around and I'd see the pool and I'd feel the temperature of the water and that type of thing. But what I wouldn't experience is this, right? So it's always changing, it's always shifting, right? And as we talked about, I'm pretty sure in the physical, non-physical, but so it'll be a review or I'll share it here, is everything in our physical world has a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's that flow, right? Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it talks about it in more details in your manual. But important thing to remember, it's a flow. And just a quick example of that, you know, you've probably been on a vacation, let's say, or something like that, you know, and you're just so enjoying yourself and you're so amazing and so wonderful, and you go, geez, I just wish it could, you know, I could stay here forever, you know, but you know, in due course in time, you know, the vacation is over and you go back to work, right? And the same thing can happen with those really unpleasant experiences. Even though they may be unpleasant, they still have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? Okay, so the next layer I want you to label is this one here. I want you to label it T for thoughts. Again, we kind of talked about your thoughts in the physical, non-physical circle, and we'll talk about them in detail in this course using what we call thought pies. And you'll see there's another video module that actually talks specifically about our thoughts, okay? This one here, I want you to label E for emotions. Now, and emotions are interesting. They're very powerful, and I find often they're misunderstood as it applies to what we're doing here. So in the manual, I talk about this. So, you know, and I think you asked the question in the manual, so what does it feel like when you're feeling the emotion of flibbergit? Okay, so now you're probably going, what? Right? Exactly. So what does it feel like when you're feeling, let's say, nervous? Right? Well, maybe when you're feeling nervous, maybe your mouth kind of gets dry, and maybe you get a little bit almost nauseous in your stomach, and maybe your hands, you know, start to perspire or something like that. Notice that all three of those were physical sensations. The reason you couldn't tell me what the emotion of flibbergit feels like is you don't have a set of physical sensations attached to the label of flibbergit, right? Okay, so an emotion is actually two parts. An emotion is the label of the emotion, and if we wanted to, we could even write that up here in our thoughts. We could say, you know, the emotion, there's the label of the emotion, and there's the physical sensations, right? And if you wanted to, you could even, you know, do E and let's say sensations, right? Kind of hard to write this in here, but there you go. The sensations, right? So this emotion is actually kind of a two-parter. There's a piece of it that fits here, and a piece of it that fits here. And as we go through and continue on in the workshop, we are going to change how we work with emotions from emotions to something that we call direction of flow. And we've referred to that in the past, and we're going to refer to it more here, and we'll talk more for specifics about it in one of the upcoming modules, okay? Now, so the first, just for now, just have that in your head, the label and the sensations. What's important about that is which one is uncomfortable, right? So if I told you, you know, oh God, goodness, you got the short straw, so you have to feel flibbergit for the rest of the day. Oh, you go, well, whatever, right? But if I said to you, oh, you got the short straw, so you have to feel extremely nervous for the rest of the day. Now that's a different story, isn't it? Right? So, what do we learn from this? It's not the label of the emotion that causes us the discomfort. It's the physical sensation of the emotion. And in your manual, we talk about the life cycle of an emotion. And what I mean by that is the part that, if you will, really matters to us, which isn't the label, right? It's the sensation, right? Because it's physical, what do we know about the physical? Everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? And it's an important thing in when we manage the emotions or the charge that we'll talk about in some of the other steps, okay? But for now, we have our physical, we have our thoughts, like I say, well, the thought pie module, we'll talk about that in detail. We have emotions. Understanding emotions are essentially two parts. The physical, the label of it, and the physical sensations or the experience of the emotion, right? Okay, now, I'm going to change colors. This little feller on the top, I'm going to label I am. That's our I am place. And we've talked about our I am place in the physical, non-physical circle, right? And so in every experience, with what we've labeled now, in every experience, and when you're building your experience, which we'll talk about later, right? There is, what we talked about now, there is essentially, there's four pieces, if you will, right? There's the physical, there's the thoughts, there's the emotion, or as we like to say, the charge, and like I said, the manual talks about that in detail, and we'll go into that when we talk about direction and flow. And then there's you, right? And as we talked about in earlier modules, well, these are all very real, and yes, I haven't forgot about this one. Well, these are all very real. You are not them, right? You experience them. They're very relevant for you. I mean, that's life, right? It's here, right? But you are not them. They are yours, if you will, but you are not them. Okay? Now, one other section here, and I'm going to, well, I'll write the words for this one here. I was going to label it, but the label kind of has a connotation that sometimes sends us in the direction that really isn't accurate. So I sometimes abbreviate them. This section is BS, right? So I'll start B, S. But what this really means is, and I always forget this, I before E except after C, right? Okay, there we go. Our belief systems. Our belief systems. And there's another module that's going to talk about what these guys are. There's a reason that this is bigger than all the others, right? Because our belief systems, that's, for me, that's where the gold is. And that's where so much of our managing, our work, our challenges, it feels like our battles and our victories lie here. And understanding what a belief system is and how to manage it, to me, is paramount to being an effective manifester. Okay? So, the 5 now, our physical, our I am, right? The thoughts that we're thinking, thought pies, we'll talk more about that. The emotions or the charge that we're feeling, and then our belief systems. Every one of these aspects are here in this present moment right now.